So this video is about this Mercedes-Benz Unimog U1700. It's ex-Australian Defence Force, and in part one we took a look at the specs, we looked at the tyres, the drivetrain, and a little bit about winching and how to drive it. In this video we're going to take a look at a muddy climb, its portal axle system and ground clearance, its suspension, a bit more about driving, and ask, is it right for you? I'm going to start off with some clarifications from part one, and the first one is that I reported the GVM as 12,300 kilograms. It's actually only 12,000, so sorry about that. Now, one tip did come out about the winch fair lead system that ensures that the cable is wound on correctly, and that's don't exceed 10 degrees. Didn't say fleet angle, but that's what we mean. So that's 0 degrees fleet angle, and that is offset by 10 degrees, 10 degree fleet angle that way, 10 degree fleet angle that way. So the advice is don't exceed that if you are running the PTO winch. If you have an electric winch, then you can exceed that provided you don't bunch up too much rope at one side of the winch drum. And a lot of ex-ADF personnel have commented, which is great, and I've put some of their stories into this blog post. So the first test is a wet grassy climb, and we've got the Mog at the moment in two-wheel drive, and if it was dry this wouldn't be a problem, but let's see what happens. Just one wheel, right rear wheel is spinning, as you can see, so we'll stop that there, and you can see that the wheels have dug in quite nicely into the ground because of that open tread pattern, but they're just not able to move the vehicle up the hill. So let's put it into four-wheel drive now and see how we get on with that, and those front wheels can pull the vehicle forwards. But what's happening now, go back for another go, and you can see that's not really working, so we'll try again. Forwards, and you can see there that two wheels on the right hand side are spinning as opposed to on the left. Now you do get this sometimes in four-wheel drives for open diffs, two right wheels spinning but two left not. That's because the two right are easier to spin than the two on the left. Now the Unimog, as we saw in part one, has those cross-axle differential locks, so we can simply engage them and that always solves everything, right? Well, not really, because all four wheels are now spinning. So when there's a lack of traction, there's a lack of traction, and lock is in or out doesn't really make much of a difference other than just the size of the hole you're going to spin. As you can see, that's really not working at all. Twin locked, 46-inch tyres, and mud tyres at that, not going anywhere. That is how bad old tyres are and how poorly they grip. Yep, so still not working for us. So let's bring the Ranger into play. And the Ranger is also running its road pressures, but it's got all-terrain tyres, not as aggressive as the Mog's mud tyres, and as you can see it's going between the ruts and just cruising up without any problem at all. That's because its tyres are only about 2 years old, not 20 years old, and that's making a difference. Yes, that car's about 3 tonnes and the Mog's more than double that, so that will make a difference, but you know, with 46-inch tyres, mud patterns, you'd expect it to work. Now here's the Mog again, and it's actually going up okay this time. Why? Because it's carrying more momentum and it's in a slightly drier part of that ascent, so that's interesting. So back to the Ranger, and this time it's going to go in the Mog's ruts, and that's going to put a load of mud on its tyres. It does get through, carrying a little bit of momentum, but now the tyres are clogged. Even spinning it, you know, they're pretty much converted to slicks now, and that's about as far as it's going to get. Okay, so let's try the Mog with some speed in the ruts again, like the Ranger, and see how it gets on. And as you can see, probably doesn't really do much better. Doesn't have the advantage of traction control, but you know, we did put the lockers in. Now this is the Ranger following with the right wheel in the Mog's ruts, and as you can see the left wheel is completely out of the Mog's ruts, so that just gives you an idea of how wide the Unimog is. So now I'm going to talk about the portal axle system on the Unimog, which is what gives it its amazing ground clearance. And I have a Lego model to demonstrate it. Now you can see here that the axle would normally go straight across like that, but there's two gears which drop it down. And if I do that, you can see actually how those gears work, right? And obviously that can still steer like so. And exactly the same thing's happening here. So we've got the axle over here, and then we've got a gear here and a gear there. That's actually a reduction gear, and then that drops the wheel down, but the axle is relatively high up, and that's what gives the vehicle its amazing ground clearance, just like this Lego model here, as you can see. So this is how portals affect ground clearance. So here's our reference vehicle. We're going to fit taller tyres to it, and now we're going to fit portal axles. So this is the ground clearance of the reference vehicle. With the taller tyres, it's obviously larger, but we can actually get the same ground clearance from the portal axle vehicle using the same diameter tyres as we did originally. So that's the same ground clearance. And you can see there, that's the difference. And we've got the same tyre diameter on the reference vehicle as on the portals, and you can see there, that's the bottom of the body, it's the same, and then that's the top of the cab. So that's the advantage of portal axles. You get much greater ground clearance for a given tyre diameter. So a normal four-wheel drive has got ground clearance of around about 220mm, which is about here. Now the Unimog has got a lot more than that. It's probably got in the order of about 0.5 metre, and we're going to prove that by getting it to drive right over my Jerry Cannon GoPro now. Much the same concept can be seen in this Macdon windrower, which uses a kind of portal axle to gain extra ground clearance for a given tyre diameter. Now this is unrelated but pretty interesting. You can see the windrower operates with the large wheels forwards when it is actually working, but you can spin it around 180 degrees like that, and then that's how you drive it in transit between jobs, because it handles better facing forwards. Maybe an idea for the next version of the Unimog. Now it's time to dispel a myth. So you know the Unimog's big, it weighs 7 tonnes and it's got a GVM of about 12 tonnes, yet take a look at this. What do you notice? Yes, that's right, on this truck that weighs 7 tonnes, GVM of 12 tonnes, it has coil springs at the front. Yet the received wisdom is that coil springs cannot take a load. And look, what's this at the back? More coil springs. So here's a news flash. Coils can take a load. Why don't you see them on many trucks? Well, the problem with that is correlation is not causation. Just because leaf springs are widely used in trucks doesn't mean to say there's alternative suspension systems which can do a good job, and coils are one of them, as evidenced in the Unimog. Now the rear axle of the Unimog, that can go from unloaded to heavily loaded, and for that reason it's got a coil within coil system. So you've got a system of one coil taking load when the vehicle is not loaded at the back, and then as you put the weight on, then that coil compresses and brings the other one into play. And the Defender 130 pictured here has exactly the same system, as well as an airbag in this case. Now you can say what you like about Land Rovers, and people do, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone or heard anyone question the load carrying ability of the Defender 130. And if you're wondering what a leaf sprung truck looks like, well, here's one, and see if you can guess which truck it is. Hint, it features elsewhere on my YouTube channel and it's pretty rare. And finally, let's have another look at a heavy military vehicle. Alright, so this is the Australian Bushmaster. I'm going to go inside and explain the controls to you. And by the way, guess what? Let's have a look underneath. We have got, look at that, independent suspension and coils. Apparently independent suspension and coils can't take a load, but nobody told the Australian Army that. So getting in, first thing is put the seatbelt on like you would any normal vehicle, and then start it up. So I'm going to put my foot on the brake, clutch down, and then we just turn the key and she started. Now we've got a hand throttle here, and the reason it didn't start properly was because the hand throttle has set the idle to in effect 0. So what I'm going to do is pull just the hand throttle down a little bit like that and restart that. And now we've got a proper idle going, and I can adjust the idle using the hand throttle like that. We'll leave it about there. Now there's the gear shift. There's 8 gears. We're just going to put it in first gear just to show you how slow that is. Normally you'd pull away maybe 3rd or 4th gear when you're lightly unloaded, so we'll put it into first gear. We'll take the park brake off, which is this, like that. Check all the mirrors, and then off we go. So that's first gear. So foot off the clutch at the moment and just idling along. So if we want to go faster, obviously we can just do what we would do in a normal car and then just go into second gear. And then that's second gear. So there's no low range, it's just 8 gears and that's it. So it can go a bit quicker. And let's try third now. Very long throw gear lever, as you'd expect from a truck. Can't rush it. Now the ride is surprisingly comfortable for most tracks that I've driven, and there's 2 reasons for that. First of all, it's got coil suspension, which does tend to be a bit more, I guess, ride friendly than leaf spring. Secondly, I'm not right over the front wheels. I've got that little bit of a bonnet, so you're just a little bit further back, and that just makes the ride a little bit better than what it would normally be if you're a truck right over the front wheels. So the more central the occupant position, the more comfortable the ride, but the less load space you get behind the cab. Now I'm in 2-wheel drive at the moment. If I want to go into 4-wheel drive, all I need to do is flick this, and then that's it. I've now got 4-wheel drive engaged. And to go back into 2-wheel drive, we'll just flick that over, and here we are again, back in 2-wheel drive. Let's try pulling away in 4th gear and see how that goes. No problem at all. Now to go from 4th to 5th, I think there's a bit of a clutch actuation or something, so you're going to take that a bit more slowly. Yep, that's good. 6th gear. And let's see if we can go from 6 to 8, bit of a skip shift. Top gear. Probably a little bit too high gear for what we're doing at the moment, so let's try going back to the 7th. Just rev match it down into 7th gear. So what have I learned from driving the Unimog? First of all, it's impressively good ride comfort even on these really old tyres. It's a lot of fun to drive. The visibility is fantastic, front, back, anywhere you want to look at, and the mirrors are pretty decent as well. It's easy to operate, as you kind of expect from an army vehicle. To start at key, make sure the hand throttle's there. The hand throttle's really good because then you can go feet off over things as well. The park brake is fantastic. I really like that, easy to operate. I really like the forward and reverse. The gear shift, little bit of getting used to, but to be honest, it's no worse than many old cars. And its steering is quite light and easy. The lockers just come in and out. There's no messing around, and that's easy to see which position it's in. You've also got the lights here as well to back it up. 8 speeds, but it does have those lights there to tell you which set of gears you're in. So it's actually a surprisingly easy vehicle to drive, as well as being very, very capable, and with a huge amount of payload as well. So really impressive. Don't know if I'd buy one, but I can certainly see why people do buy them. And one final little trick, this is how you get out of a Unimog. That's the release for the door. So is a Unimog right for you? Well, let's take a look. It's got incredible off-road capability, probably better than any other truck in its class. Huge payload and towing. Relatively good ride thanks to the cool suspension and that offset cab. It's good value, I think, for what it is. It's simple and tough. Depreciation is probably going to be pretty good. I doubt it's going to go down much further, and there's quite a large number of parts and skills available. On the flip side, it's very wide for four-wheel drive tracks, and you certainly wouldn't want to try and take it anywhere narrow. Using it sort of for transport, well, the tray is really high off the ground, much higher than a ute and even higher than something like a Canter. It is slow and noisy. You'd be lucky to get more than 90 km an hour out of it. There's no safety and very little comfort, and high fuel consumption, and it's manual only. Now, you can fix some of these things with soundproofing and overdrive kits, etc. aftermarket, but nevertheless, that is going to be additional expense. So, is a Unimog right for you? Well, please use the comment section and let me know, and I'm also keen to hear Unimog stories as well for people that have driven them, owned them and worked with them. Hope you found this video useful, and thank you for watching.